I thought I'd show you a trick that I figured out recently to try and make the Singer ZigZagger sew in a straight line. You can see here what I did originally. I wanted to try something, and I sewed in a straight line with a basting stitch and then tried to sew evenly over top of it, and it's very difficult. However, if you look, these two lines here are parallel. What I did to achieve that is what I'm doing now. Just let me start this. I've got this on the treadle. And if you line up the center of the foot on a line and follow that, you will get a straight stitch. If you try and line up the center of the foot, so this part here, or the needle, on a line, you're just going to go all over the place. So what you need to do is sew with this part here, very center there, on a center. So what I'm doing is doing on the center of that pattern, and that gives a straight stitch. So let me show you how that works. You can see it wiggles side to side, but the idea is you follow the center of that pattern in the very center of the foot, and you will get straight stitching. So let me show you how that works off of a straight. So we've cut here, and don't worry about the, I've not adjusted my tension so it looks pretty ridiculous. But here I have, you can see how these are perfectly even. Okay? And what I did to get this first line here was I sewed off the center of that line and put that line on the foot. So what I'm going to do is do the same, but from the side you can see. So what I'll do is I'll line up on the left side of the foot this, ouch. So this not the pattern, but actually that basting line. So the idea is you need to find a line that you can follow on your pattern, whether you draw it, sew it, or something else. So if I start there, and I sew with this in the middle of the pattern, I will get a parallel. And that's the best. It means you can only get as close with the pattern as the width of the foot, but at least it works. So I'll show you another trick shortly. But at least I'll show you how this works. The idea is you can keep it straight on that line, the basting stitch, and that enables you to get a pattern. And that way you can do parallel, since one of the biggest important parts of using these feet is usually to do multiple parallel patterns. You can see some of my previous tests here when I tried to line up the center of the needle. I went all over the place, but on the outside you can see I used the width of the foot, and that gives you parallel. So if you follow the needle, you're going to get a disaster. Maybe someone can do it better than I can, but I'd found that was totally impossible to follow the needle at all. So I found it much better results by actually using the edge of the foot. And I've done this with the American ZigZagger as well, but using a different trick, which I'm going to show you on this foot as well. In a second, this should be finished. Okay, so pull that up. Use a thread. So here we have what I've just sewn. So this right is the one I've just sewn, and you can see it's perfectly parallel. So I've got 4 parallel stitches now. So that's a good result. And that works. If you use the needle position, you get this, or at least I do, terrible results. so that it's using the side of the foot. So another trick you can do as well to assure you get parallel stitching, I'm just going to fold this over to give us a clean piece of fabric, okay, is to use either a screw-in or a magnetic seam guide. Now, it follows the same principle. What you're doing is you're using the seam guide to control the edge, to make it parallel with your foot. And then that way what happens is this foot will move back and forth, always in exactly the same place, but the seam guide will assure that your fabric is being fed. And you can move it closer if you want, like up here, as long as it doesn't hit the attachment. But I use this on the American version of the ZigZagger as well, and that works very well for controlling it. So you get a perfectly parallel and straight stitch. So let me show you in a minute about what the results of this kind of technique looks like. And that way you can be sure you're always going to get a perfectly even result. So I'm getting near the end now. I've got my tension or foot pressure set relatively high, but I found that if you go too high, it binds the attachment, you lose your zigzag, and it stops feeding properly. So there is a happy balance on all of these things to be struck. So if you look there, those are very good results. As I said, ignore the tension. I've just used a test bobbin and it's too loose, but I'm not worried about that at the moment because I'm just running a test. So the bobbin, as you can see, is perfect. It just needs a bit of tightening to make sure the stitches are more perfect. But the result is perfect. So if I want to, this is where it gets exciting. If I want to make a parallel set of stitches, again, you have to line it up with that foot. And what you can do to help is you can actually use your seam guide there to just double ensure that you get a set of parallel stitches to that. And you might find it's better to go slightly closer. But if you go too close, it tends to squish the fabric. So you sometimes need to get a happy balance to keep it a little farther back. Otherwise it squishes it and then it gets harder to control. So it will shift. So if I move this over here, what you'll see is as I'm sewing, it will move back and forth, but what you can be sure is that it always comes back to where you want, and you get a very good result by doing this. So it moves back and forth, that's fine, I can cope with that, because this assures me that I'm sewing in the center of the pattern. Okay, so those are pretty good. That's a pretty good result. As you can see, occasionally I go slightly wrong, but it's not, it's totally acceptable. So if you were trying to do anything, parallel pattern, something really attractive, that technique works really well to give you good results. Otherwise it's practically impossible, and you'd get that, which is what I've had previously. So using the foot and the seam guide, you will get really, really good results. And I thought you'd be interested in seeing that. Now, for those of you who want to see that this technique works for the American ZigZagger as well, there's the previous stitch I've sewn on the Swiss ZigZagger. And what I'll do is I'll start sewing on this one. I need to reduce the stitch length a lot. Okay, that's probably enough for now. So there you go. Works very well. Good technique. And a nice fun stitch from the ZigZagger. So you can see those are all done on the mechanical ones, and quite a nice result. Ignoring the tension thing, but that's fine, I've fixed that now. So that's a bit of fun. Hope you like it.